आगे नहीं जाओ, आगे मत जाओ। संजय, केबल को कोई छेड़ रहा है यार, पीछे यार।
So you can see these are live visuals coming in from Budgam in Jammu and Kashmir, where the mortal remains of the 37 martyrs have arrived as the CRPF and other dignitaries pay tribute to the Pulwama martyrs. The government of India has also vowed to give a strong response to Pakistan. It was in the morning that Prime Minister Modi stated that India will give a befitting response for the Pulwama attack that took place yesterday, which took the lives of 37 CRPF Jawans. He also sent out a strong message to Pakistan. At the same time, the opposition also reacted, where Congress President Rahul Gandhi stated that this has been an attack at the soul of the country. Most importantly, he reiterated that the opposition stands united with the Indian government and that the country will never forget this attack. This was after the Indian Prime Minister had reached out to the opposition, requesting them to not politicize the Pulwama attack of yesterday. These are 37 Indian soldiers which were killed during the Pulwama terror attack, when a routine convoy was on its way to Srinagar. This was the most cowardly attack that has taken place in the valley of Jammu and Kashmir in recent years. It took place in Avantipoda. It is a day of mourning as the Pulwama massacre will go in the annals of the worst terror attacks in the valley. India lost 37 of these bravest Jawans in an absolutely abhorrent and cowardly attack in Avantipoda. This was after a Jaish dastard rammed a vehicle carrying explosives weighing 350 kgs into the CRPF truck. And I'm now joined in by Professor Christine Fair, who is a Professor of Security Studies from Georgetown University in USA. Let's quickly go across to Ms. Fair. Professor, this has been a dastardly attack as we speak. The tribute is currently taking place for the 37 martyrs of the CRPF which were killed yesterday. But what cannot be taken away from this terror attack, which will go down in the history of the worst terror attacks in the Indian Valley of Jammu and Kashmir, is the fact that Pakistan's role has been consistently remained the same. It continues to be the hub of terror. It continues to provide safe haven to terrorists. Your take on Pakistan's role at the moment, also taking into consideration its reaction, which has just poured in some hours ago, has been a very calculated and a very cold reaction.
So, I mean, obviously this is, Jaish-e-Mohammed is a Pakistan proxy. It is very much in control of this organization. I think one probably needs to understand a little bit about what's different about this attack, right? This has been 18 years since Jaish has used a vehicle-borne IED. The video is also quite new. My take on these videos, and this kind of comes out of the scholarship on the Palestinian suicide bombers, is that they typically use these videos as a way to force the bomber to carry out the operation. Like, in other words, you might make a video when you think that the bomber might actually abscond, right? And then you release the video to the security officials and so forth, and the individual's life is ruined anyway. So there are a couple of things that are I think a little bit different about this, not just the casualty counts. The other thing that's quite different is usually when Jaish does these suicide attacks, they're usually Punjabis, right? And so this is another important difference, is that this was in fact a local boy that was involved. So when one asks why Jaish, why now, why with these particular details, one has to understand that this is a very calculated calibration of the violence. And my take on this is that in recent years, there's been a lot of rhetoric coming out of Al-Qaeda, Indian subcontinent, as well as the Islamic State, chiding Kashmiri Muslims and Indian Muslims more generally about not standing up for themselves, not taking on the various issues that they think they should be. And Pakistan has actually been very concerned about losing control over the India project. And so one of the ways in which I interpret the details of this attack is that this is actually an attempt by Pakistan to reassert control over the India project, to try to undercut some of the claims of the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda Indian subcontinent.
Right. Professor, a very interesting point being made by you over there, that this could have been a proxy conducted by Pakistan at the moment. I also want to talk about Jaish-e-Mohammed as an outfit, as a terror outfit, and also the Afghanistan role at the moment, because let's not forget that the Jaish-e-Mohammed is a terror outfit which has had a very close linkage. Its umbilical cord has had a close linkage with the Taliban, and now that the Taliban is at the negotiating table, how do you view the entire scenario changing, and how has that affected the entire terror activity growing in Kashmir? Because let's not forget that the Taliban is back at the negotiating table, and secondly, the US is also withdrawing its troop, leading, to lowering of a guard.
I get it. Can we just stop pretending the Taliban are at the negotiating table? This is such utter nonsense. They are not at the negotiating table. The Afghan Taliban, they are winning. In fact, they've won. The United States is withdrawing. The United States is handing the Afghan policy right back to the Pakistanis. So I can't even hear that statement that they're negotiating for peace. They're not negotiating for peace. They've essentially won. But your larger point is more important, which is that these are all Deobandi militant groups. And what probably needs to be understood is that back in 2001, Jaish-e-Mohammed split. Right? The vast majority of the group turned against the state, and they turned against the United States. Masood Azhar did not. He, in fact, went to the ISI. He said, look, a lot of my organization is broken off. And they actually began the seeds of the Pakistan Taliban, right? So he goes into protective custody. The ISI invests very heavily to regrow his organization. So as the Pakistanis have dealt with the Pakistan Taliban, it has had two Ghar Wapasi programs by which they could take the bad Taliban or the bad and good terrorists again. So one option for these Deobandis that are in the Pakistan Taliban is to go back and join the Afghan Taliban, right, drawing upon the close linkages that you already noted. The other Ghar Wapasi program is to take those individuals and put them into Jaish-e-Mohammed. And so in the meantime, Lashkar-e-Taiba has been very much involved in domestic affairs, because they are one of the few organizations that are opposed to the Deobandis engaging in sectarian and other forms of violence, and they are also opposed to the Islamic State. So while the Lashkar-e-Taiba, one of Pakistan's proxies, is engaged in domestic affairs, for the time being, Jaish is going to be the most likely face of Pakistani terror. I want to be really clear. It doesn't operate independently. This is an organization that is thoroughly an arm of the ISI. That's why I don't call it a terrorist organization. When you call it a terrorist organization, you give the impression that it's an independent actor. It isn't. This is a wing, if you will, of the Pakistani state.